Financial correspondent Hwang Ji-hye spoke with Tom Byrne, the Senior Vice President of Credit Ratings at Moody's Investors Service. Korea's new economic team is doing all it can to boost the economy. Tom Byrne of Moody's says the aggressive fiscal policies of Korea's new economic team will get consumers spending again and help build business confidence in the short term. A deadly Ebola virus is spreading quickly in West Africa. 2 American missionary workers who contracted the virus received an experimental drug and are reportedly improving now. Reporters Kwon So-a Shin Se-min told us more about this deadly virus. Dr. Kent Brantley and Nancy Wrightball contracted Ebola during a medical volunteer trip in Africa. After being administered a new drug called ZMapp, both began recovering at a fast pace. Ebola can kill up to 90% of those infected, and the global community is in fear. Health officials around the world are working on stopping its spread. Park Young-sun is serving as both the floor leader of the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy and the interim chief of its emergency committee. She held a press conference at the National Assembly on August 5th and talked about the makeup of the emergency committee. Our National Assembly correspondent Ji Myung-kil reported on the press conference. The interim leader vowed to break away from old practices and promised to achieve unity with the support of the people. The new interim leadership, named the Committee for Public Empathy and Reform, is in charge of party reforms. The committee will be comprised of people the public can identify with, including members from outside the party. Plus, newly elected members of the National Assembly will participate in the committee. Park said she will break free from nepotism and actively recruit members from inside and out of the party. It's August 4th, 10 minutes before the 2 p.m. news. The new anchor of the afternoon news walks into the studio in a hurry. It's Laah Hyun-kyung's first day as anchor, and she starts her first newscast.
It's Monday, August 4th. You're watching Arirang News. I'm Laah Hyun-kyung, and these are the stories we're following at this hour.
Hyun-kyung filed her last news report the previous week. As she's now in the anchor seat, it could be some time before she gets back in the field.
The first such airline to do so will most likely be Jin Air. I had a chance to meet with one official there. Take a look.
Hyun-kyung got to lead in to her own news piece that she had worked on for several weeks.
To offer non-stop flights to Hawaii next year. It's booming for sure, but I noticed that their sources of profits were also becoming limited in a way because the market itself was becoming very saturated. So I was keeping a close eye, and the pie itself in Asia is very small. I mean, the Korean Peninsula is a small area compared to other neighboring countries like China, Japan, and AirAsia already has a big presence in Asia. So the competition is very fierce as well. And that's when I heard that Jin Air was launching long-distance flights. So I called up a few of my analyst friends, and they were telling me that the LCC, the low-cost carriers in Korea, might be looking for new sources of profits. And that was one of the reasons why Jin Air was launching long-haul flights. So I was able to come up with the story that way.
It was early morning.
전반적인 적방사 얘기를 하긴 할 텐데 그렇게 많이 하진 않을 것 같아요.
But Gimpo International Airport was brimming with people as it's vacation season. Hyun-kyung's here to cover the low-cost carriers that have found a new source of profit.
안녕하세요. 지금 출입증을 받고 들어가서 이미 기체는, 그러니까 항공기는 이미 들어와 있는 상태예요.
9시 10분쯤에 그 그라운드 준비가 될 거고 저희는 이제 여기 지점분이랑 같이 착고로 들어가서 안에 좀 촬영하시다가 촬영 끝나시면은 다시 차를 타고 공항 외곽으로 또 가셔야 돼요.
Getting coverage at the airport is difficult due to security and safety reasons. Everything that goes on at the airport, including the filming, must be done according to a fixed schedule.
항공기 그 풀샷도 저희가 뭐 이동해서 찍고 하면은
그라운드에서 이렇게
네, 그라운드에서.
Hyun-kyung carefully checks the list of items that must be filmed as she passes through security checkpoints and heads towards the boarding gate area.
코리안 에어도 몇 개 좀 왜냐면 얘네가 모기업이잖아요, 코리안 에어가. 그래서 얘네 얘기도 비행기나 뭐 로고나 뭐 아무거나.
She's worried she might miss a thing or two by being pressed for time, so she talks in detail with the camera director in advance.
그러니까 기장님이 그 안에 앉아 계시고 우리는 여기에서 그러니까 이렇게 만약에 비행기가 이렇게 대기를 하고 있다면
안 보일 걸?
안 보여요?
Hyun-kyung wants a diverse set of video footage that suits her news report.
내려오는 거 찍으면 좋은데? 안 돼요, 지금?
여기서 찍으면 되잖아.
아, 그럼 걸려요.
아, 여기선 찍으면 안 돼요? 나가서 찍어야 돼요?
It's time for the airplane they will film to arrive. The runway is so large, they head over to the landing area by car.
혹시 도착 뭐 예정 시간이 지금 있나요?
26분 돼 있었는데.
26분? 한 3분 남은 거네요?
The airport runway is wide and vast, but there's a set amount of time. Hyun-kyung must not cause any inconveniences for the passengers and the flight attendants during filming. However, she can't sacrifice her news coverage either.
We already had the footage where the airplane was taking off. Jin Air also had some available footage, so I was able to look through those. But what we didn't have was the plane landing. So we were constantly talking with Jin Air officials, and they were talking to the control tower, finding out when the plane was going to land. But I still really wanted to have that. So that's one of the reasons why I was talking to my camera crew and making sure that I had that so I could have a more complete package.
The plane from Jeju Island lands in Seoul. It will now take on a new set of passengers and fly back to the island.
일단 최대한 좀 찍는 만큼 찍을게요. 그 착륙하는 거 하나 찍을 수 있다고 했던 항공기가 몇 시 항공기예요?
그게 11시, 10시 반에 들어온 게 있으니까
아,
그거는 찍을
10시
수
반.
있고, 그게 11시 넘어서 출발하는 거니까.
All the passengers have deboarded the plane, and Hyun-kyung's allowed to film inside the cabin now.
근데 우리가 안에서 주어지는 시간이 굉장히 짧아요. 지금.
네.
그러니까 다 내리면 바로 들어가도 되는데 일단 내 스탠딩하고 그러니까 스탠드업하고 그 일하는 영상을 찍으면 뭘 먼저 찍어야 될지 지금 조금 고민이기는 한데 스탠딩을 먼저 부탁하는 게 나은가?
She has no time to spare.
그 뒤에 계신데 괜찮아요? 저 이렇게 걸어오면서 찍을게요. 그러면.
The filming takes place right away, as there's no time for a rehearsal.
Budget airline market is becoming fierce in Asia, and Korea is no exception. 한 번만 다시 가야 될 것 같아, 한 번만. Competition in budget airline market is becoming fierce in Asia, and Korea is no exception. That's why low-cost carriers are looking for a new source of profits, and launching long-haul flight services may be an answer for some, like Jin Air. 마지막 것만 볼게요.
Compromise is necessary for the next scheduled item.
짧은 시간 안에 하려니.
As the cabin is tight and confined, it's hard to move around. The filming begins in areas that have been cleaned and organized. The allotted 10 minutes have passed, and it's time for the passengers to begin boarding.
I didn't realize that we will be having the time constraints to that severely, in a way. And also, because I wasn't really sure what the whole story was going to be, I had to constantly think about what I wanted to put in my story. And having the matching footage, I had to constantly talk with my camera crew and also the officials at the airport to make sure that I was going to get what I needed.
The filming inside the cabin is complete, and it's time to film a plane landing.
그러니까 착륙을 꼭 찍어야 돼서 10시 40분에서 45분 정도 예정. 얘 지금 이륙하는 거를 찍고 이동하면 빠듯할 수도 있는 거예요?
얘는 여기서 이륙 안 하고 저까지 또 가요.
아까 저까지 가니까.
네. 어차피 여기서 이륙하는 거 못 찍으니까
네.
절로 이동해야 되는데
네.
카메라 앵글을 일단 멀리서부터 찍으실 건지 그냥 측면부터 찍으실 건지
측면에서. 그죠?
저쪽 찍고 갈게요.
Jin Air is preparing to travel long distances from 2015. Hyun-kyung got all the video footage she needed in the allotted time, thanks to her hard work and great chemistry with the production crew.
완전 좋네. 완전 좋아. 됐습니다. 네.
We're back to the first day of Hyun-kyung's new role as anchor. She's finished her first newscast and is now preparing for the 4 p.m. news. Hosting the news on her own means 2 times the amount of things that need to be checked. To make sure she doesn't miss anything, Hyun-kyung constantly double checks with the production team.
그러면 내가 지금 오프닝하고 클로징하고 그리고 16시는 스튜디오로 오면 그냥 오프닝하고 바로 첫 스토리죠. 오케이. 알겠습니다.
She also goes over the anchor leads and revises them with Scott, the in-house editor.
Did she actually already cross them?
Yeah, she said. And then just say no plans to meet with
No
officials.
plans to meet, with officials. All right.
Thank you. 다시 보실래요?
All the news packages going out at the 4 p.m. news have been fixed. Hyun-kyung will decide on the order they will be aired as she gets better acquainted with the stories.
So 날씨 돌고 나면 are you gonna start right away with
크로스톡은 6시만 있어요.
Ah, okay, good. All right.
So I'll add the Halloween thing in.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Hyun-kyung writes up a short opening and closing. And once everything's ready for the 4 p.m. news, she heads over to the studio.
Thanks for tuning in. You're watching Arirang News. I'm Laah Hyun-kyung. Let's start with the deadliest Ebola outbreak on record. The death toll.
The 4 p.m. news begins. As it's her first day as anchor, Hyun-kyung's bound to be nervous, but she doesn't show it.
And back here in Korea, the main stock index, the Kospi, enjoyed its highest rally.
The nation's economy is becoming increasingly dependent.
Hyun-kyung hosted Korea Today live in the morning from 2012 to 2014 and is now the host of the discussion program Upfront. She has built up her hosting skills and has now been given the responsibility of hosting the afternoon news. However, there's still some unfinished tasks Hyun-kyung must complete.
I mean, it wasn't the first time that I was going live on air, but it was definitely the first time that I was doing straight news and delivering the stories that our reporters covered. And I realized that I really had to interact a lot more with my fellow reporters to find out what their story was about, what their stories were about, and to make sure that I had the right anchor lead for their stories. And that, in that sense, that was very exciting.
The daily afternoon news is aired once every 2 hours from 2 p.m. Now Hyun-kyung's left with early edition at 6, and this time she is joined by anchor Daniel Che.
And then after the news bumper, that part also, I just go in and make changes. And because I don't know when it's 2 anchor shot and I don't know when it's like 1 anchor shot.
We said it. I think you can decide which one you want to discuss with the PD and decide which one you want to go 2 and 1.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
A guest is invited for early edition at 6. It's the anchor's duty to prepare for the interview, where they talk with an expert about a pressing issue.
이거 인덱스 좌상단 타이틀이요. 보통 한 그러니까 얼마나 짧게 해야 돼요? 한번 봐봐도 될까요?
세 단마까지는
그래요? 알았어요.
There are a lot of updates for the 6 p.m. news. It is the last afternoon newscast before the evening news, so there are many different kinds of reports. Hyun-kyung heads to the studio once again. She feels more reassured that there's another anchor hosting the news with her this time. Each of them have their own tasks, but they're co-workers and can rely on one another.
It's 6 p.m. here in Korea, August 4th. You're watching Arirang News. I'm Laah Hyun-Kyung.
And I'm Daniel Chen. Thank you for joining us.
The death toll of China's earthquake continues to rise.
The knob to a door labeled change is located inside everyone. Hyun-kyung concentrated on writing economy-related reports after leaving Korea today, but now she's in the driver's seat delivering news from all fields. We hope the door will open for Hyun-kyung through her interactions with the reporters and production team.
For the major East Asian economies, including Korea.
Hyun-kyung hosts everything smoothly, including in-depth with guest Michael Na of Nomura International, and her first day finished off on a high note. You can see anchor Laah Hyun-kyung every day on the afternoon newscasts. We look forward to her future activities.
Have a great rest of the evening and do join us again tomorrow. Credibility is key in journalism, and what I'm trying to do is to build that credibility to our viewers, and I'm trying to make sure that every single story that we put on air is factually right and that they have meaning behind those stories. And I would like to become an anchor that is always, not always, but most of the times who's on site to deliver breaking news. So those are some of the things that I would like to work on and in the end become a journalist that I want to be in the future.
Pleasure to meet you. Yes. Let's move on to the makeup room. All right. Before we go on to the studio. We have two school teachers from the US joining us in the studio today. So they are here as a group who are participating in this program that provides various information about Korea and particularly Korean history. And their goal is to go back to the US and implement Korean history into their school curriculum. So very excited to talk to them about how this initiative is all going. Young-Kim is the host of our program.
Nice meeting you. Nice meeting you. Just pleasure to meet you. Just trying to look like a host.
I'm just wondering, this actually is, I guess it's not Korea specific, like it's kind of a broad program.
Yeah, it is a broad program. There's been Fulbright grants to places such as India. Actually, two of our members on the trip traveled that as well.
Do you feel that this program is sort of giving you insight into the Korean history, learning Korean history, and then putting that into teaching students, I guess, Korean history?
Absolutely. I teach African and Asian cultures, so to get more hands-on approach to resources and materials, one of the problems I struggle with a lot in teaching East Asian, particularly Korean history in the States, is the lack of resources. Being here has really afforded me the opportunity to gain more resources in order to better teach.
Yeah, I teach a public school.
Basically, when I went to school, all I learned about, all that there was on Korean history was the Korean War.
Exactly.
And then it was, it was sandwiched right between World War II and also the Vietnam War.
It's given a nickname, the Forgotten War for...
Exactly. And then, the only thing that we knew about that was, watching shows like MASH,
Yeah.
So So I think it's kind of a bad representation, or it's not been, Korea hasn't been represented well. So I think this is why we're doing this interview, and we wanted you guys to come into the studio and to speak with us. So how close do you think they are to adding Korean history as actually a school curriculum?
I have it already.
Oh, you have it already?
I teach in Tenafly. There's 4 years mandated history, 2 years world, 2 years U.S. as per New Jersey state law. The freshman year, which is the year that I currently teach, is African and Asian cultures. So we do Africa, Middle East, China, Japan, Korea, and India. And the units are on variable length, but I have a legitimate ancient to modern. We do ancient to modern in all of those areas. So I currently teach it. Okay, sounds good. And you can tell us that during the interview as well. Was this your first time here? Yes.
How do you guys like it?
Kind of awesome.
It's an exciting adventure, yeah.
Yeah.
The scope of everything is just so dramatic.
It's a real jungle, right?
Yeah. Well, it's also so much contrast everywhere you look between the old and the new.
Yeah.
It's like a city that's sort of quickly moving into the 22nd century while still holding on to
its roots.
I got here like 15, 16 years ago, and even in that decade and a half, a lot has changed.
So where'd you move from originally?
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, okay. Picked up on the draw.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess we'll just go ahead and go in there and do our interview, and I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Okay.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Efforts are continuing in the U.S. to include Korean history as part of their school curriculum. Recently, 12 school teachers from New Jersey came to Korea to experience and learn Korean history, language, as well as a bit of the culture.
We've had incredible experiences, really, from the moment that we got here. Teaching Korean history, one of the problems we have is a lack of resources, and a lack of resources in English that I can then use.
More than I expected. The opportunity to meet with experts in the field, whether we're dealing with economics, whether we're dealing with immigration patterns, and also looking at the positives as well as negatives of those interactions. It gives the students a better understanding of where we are now, and that makes the history much more relevant to them as opposed to just facts on a page.
Thank you for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your stay, and we do hope to see you again.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity.
All right, thank you.
I have to say I'm extremely humbled and flattered to be invited on this show, to be almost treated in a sort of celebrity status is something that teachers in the United States are not quite used to. But it was also really wonderful to have the opportunity to share my experiences in this beautiful country with the viewing audience.
I'm very grateful for the opportunity and very thankful for the opportunity to be able to speak about education across cultural boundaries and across borders. I mean, how much better does that get? It's an incredible experience, and like Scott, I have to say it's been very wonderful just being in this country, because it really does kind of feel like a second home, and I think that's something that's very special.